Hello, everyone, and welcome to Exploring Cinema. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And to kick off 2024, we're going to be looking back at 2023. Specifically, I wanted to share the best movies that I watched in 2023 that were new to me. So we're not looking at brand new 2023 movies here. I'm just looking at anything else from before 2023 in the history of cinema that I watched this past year. I almost averaged a movie a day this past year.
Impressive.
Yeah. I think about half of that came in the weeks where I just watched a bunch of Disney movies after I had hip surgery and couldn't get off the couch.
I mean, that didn't hurt your prospects, your average.
Yeah, that helped the stats for sure.
Yes, and specifically, I am feeling a bit under the weather and am not in the mood to talk very much. So Nate will be commanding this episode, and I get to just be a captive audience.
Yeah, Dylan's going to help me basically, not have to do an episode by myself. I got somebody to talk to.
Yes,
for the most part here.
I'm here.
So
can't talk though.
Yeah, I've got 15 movies that I wanted to include, and I have mentioned to you, and I've probably mentioned on this show before, where I had kind of a list on Letterboxd of my top 150 movies of all time, and I update that at the end of every year. And I finally reached a point where I felt like I've seen enough movies, and I have enough that I love where it was worthy to expand it to 200. So all of these 15 movies that I watched in 2023 for the first time are in my top 200, and specifically they're all in my top 175. And so these are all movies that I think are, at the very worst, fantastic. And every movie I list here should be viewed as me just giving it a very high recommendation.
Okay.
So with that, we'll start at the bottom and we'll work our way up.
Oh, wow.
At number 15, Blowout.
Hey.
Brian De Palma, John Travolta, Joan Allen.
I think so. Yep.
I think that's right. That came in for me at number 175 on my top 200 movies of all time. Nancy Allen. My God. I say Joan Allen every single time. She was in a different movie, I believe, that we're going to be talking about at some point this month. But this was phenomenal. I think I had heard somebody, I can't remember who it was, tell me they didn't like Blowout like a few years ago. And so I always had that kind of hovering over this movie for me, but I knew you really liked it.
Yeah.
And I was able to pick up the really cool Criterion Blu-ray of that and watch that movie for the first time. It was a blind buy and it worked out for me really, really well. I think that movie's just fantastic. So that I have at 175. So my 15th best new to me movie that I watched in 2023.
Hell yeah.
And then at 174, I have The Big Heat, which is an old 50s black and white noir directed by Fritz Lang, who also directed M. You've probably heard of that movie from the 30s, the German serial killer movie. This one is just a hard-boiled cop going after corrupt like mobsters and politicians, basically.
Nice. Okay.
And it's 89 minutes. It starts off with a bang. Like, I was hooked within like 15 seconds of this movie starting.
Okay, cool.
If anybody is interested in kind of dipping their toe into 50s movies, I mean, we just recently did an episode on Dial M for Murder, which we all loved, which would be a high recommendation. The Big Heat also holds up insanely well. Just a great, short, tight crime movie starring Glenn Ford and Gloria Graham. Really, really good. And I think I mentioned already, I have that one at 174. And then my 13th best movie of 2023 is My Darling Clementine, directed by John Ford, another blind buy.
Yes, Western, right?
Criterion, a Western from 1946, starring Henry Fonda. The only John Ford movie I had seen before this was The Searchers, which I hate.
Yes, you
but
do.
I saw Henry Fonda was in this. It sounded a little different. And honestly, the cover art for the Criterion Blu-ray was just really, really cool.
Yeah, cool shot.
And I thought, like, this just sounds really good. I'm going to take a take a chance. And I think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite Westerns ever. It's a movie I plan on revisiting pretty soon. You still haven't seen My Darling Clementine, have you?
I've not.
Okay. Well, that one, I think I got to get you to watch at some point. Maybe we'll do like a whole Western month here
We
at
can do
some
that.
point.
Yeah.
I think that might be kind of fun because there's enough variety over the decades and kind of going all the way back if we want to into Hollywood history to dive into some Westerns. But that one I have at 171 on my list. So those three, I've always kind of viewed them as like, I think I watched them in quick succession and they've just kind of stayed together in my head for some reason. I don't really quite know why. They don't really have that much in common with each other. They're very different types of movies, but for whatever reason, they stick together in my mind. And then my 12th favorite movie of 2023 is a movie we actually have an episode for, which is Perfect Blue.
Yes.
Which comes in at 167 for me. This was maybe the highest on my list of animated movies I needed to watch. I just hadn't gotten to it for whatever reason and finally watched it kind of randomly. I can't even remember, like in September. And I thought it was phenomenal. I pretty much immediately texted you and said, we have to do an episode on this movie.
Yeah. And we did.
Yeah, we did, which was a really fun episode. It's also short, only 81 minutes. Do you want to add anything on Perfect Blue? I know that was one you really liked as well.
Yeah, and then I almost rewatched it recently because I was thinking about it. So it's on the rewatch list for sure.
Yeah, it's a thinker for sure, and something I think you can get a lot of out of like multiple viewings.
Yeah, and it's only 81 minutes long, so it doesn't feel like too much of an undertaking.
That too. And then my 11th favorite movie of 2023 is another movie that we have an episode on, which we just did back in November, and that is The New World, directed by Terrence Malick, which I have at number 151 on my top 200.
Wow, it surprises me that The New World is higher than Perfect Blue.
Yeah, I think because it's 3 hours long and I just watched it twice in like 5 days, and the fact that like it is that long and I still felt like I just want to watch this again, and I loved it even more the second time. And definitely a bit of a bump for, I think, just being one of the best looking movies I've ever seen.
Okay. That 4K TV has you bumping things up just for visual aspects now.
It really does. I mean, when something like hits right on the 4K TV, it's just a whole other level. I finally bumped Mad Max Fury Road up to 5 stars on my 4th viewing after watching it in 4K for the first time. So I don't know how much that had to do with it, or watching it with my dad and he loved it, and I just finally was ready to take that extra little step, but I don't know.
Nice.
So yeah, that was The New World at 11. At number 10, I have Safe, directed by Todd Haynes, 1995, starring Julianne Moore. They just had a new movie come out called May December, which I loved. I like Safe even more. That one I have at 148 on my top 200. So these first ones I've included are kind of in their own tier.
Yeah, okay.
I would say 175 through 148 sort of bunched in there together a little bit. And I mean, Safe is unlike anything I've really ever seen before. Julianne Moore gives one of the best performances I've ever seen, just kind of about a woman in suburban California who just starts experiencing a strange type of illness that nobody can really identify or diagnose. And she's just kind of feeling worse and worse. And they eventually sort of call it environmental illness. And they just can't really figure it out. It's a fascinating movie, and one that I think rewards patience, and one that is definitely something where if you watch with people, you're going to want to talk about a lot after the movie is over.
Okay.
And then kind of jumping up to tier 2 here, I'd say I have 3 tiers for these movies. So tier 2, kicking that off, I have Paper Moon as my 9th favorite movie of 2023, and at number 122 on my top 200.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, we just might be talking about this movie in more detail coming up in the next week or so. So I don't want to dive into this too much yet, except to just kind of say, if you haven't heard of it, it stars Ryan O'Neal, and who just passed away within the last month, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Directed and Tatum O'Neal and Madeline Kahn, directed by Peter Bogdanovich. Tatum O'Neal at the time, and I think she might still be the youngest Oscar winner for acting.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really great movie. And yeah, we got a full episode on that coming up. So don't really need to dive into that too much more at the moment. And then number 8, this is a movie I think I've recommended to you like 5 times since I watched it. I know you're interested in it, and it's not because I think you're ignoring it or anything. It's part of it is just because I think you'll love it. And that is The Innocents.
Yes.
Which I have at 121 on my top 200. Directed by Jack Clayton. This is an adaptation of The Turn of the Screw, novel by Henry James from the late 1800s. If anybody's familiar with or has seen The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, that is also an adaptation of The Turn of the Screw. But instead of a miniseries, this is just a movie from 1961 starring Deborah Kerr, who you and I just watched Black Narcissus.
Yes.
A week or so ago, and she was in that. 100 minutes. I think just a phenomenal horror movie and ghost story that I would highly recommend if you're into kind of black and white. Like if you like The Others.
Yeah.
I think you'll really like The Innocents.
Well, I do like The Others, so yes, The Innocents will be on the list.
I've got that on Blu-ray. I should loan it to you because I think you'd really like it. And then I watched this movie on the same day as Paper Moon. I watched them back to back.
Nice.
And at number 7, I have They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
Oh, yeah. You were telling me about this one.
And I have that at 116 on my top 200. And They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Is really hard to find. I found a weird stream on YouTube, which was just there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is. Directed by Sidney Pollack in 1969, starring Jane Fonda. And it also takes place during the Great Depression, which is why I paired it with Paper Moon. This movie is just about a bunch of very poor people who enter a dance till you drop, like dance marathon contest.
Yeah.
And they're partners, so they're pairs, and the winning pair wins $1,500. And it is just a striking look at like kind of what capitalism is and does to people.
Yeah.
Particularly during a depression. And I mean, I don't really want to say too much more. The ending of this movie is just stunning.
Okay.
It's a very depressing movie. So it's not something you're going to want to watch if you're just kind of like, oh, what should I watch tonight? I feel like you kind of need to have thought about watching this movie for a little while and then finally take the plunge. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And it was stuck in my head for like a week after I watched it. So number 7 was They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And then at number 6 is a movie you and I watched together at your place, which is, and this was so long ago that I forgot it was in 2023 because it was in like February or something, or maybe even January. But this is Phoenix.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
In 2014, directed by Christian Petzold, starring Nina Haas.
That ending, though.
One of the best endings I've ever seen, which is why it's so high. This is 113 on my top 200. And Phoenix, without really giving anything away, is about a woman who survives the Holocaust, but she has enough injuries where she needs facial reconstructive surgery. She goes back to her hometown and nobody recognizes her. And then she learns that it may have been her husband who sold her to the Nazis.
Yes.
And that's as far as I want to go.
Yeah.
Telling people what this movie is about. I mean, I think that sounds intriguing by itself anyway. But the movie turns into something that I don't think either of us expected. And then for a movie where everything I've read says the ending is amazing, for that to, it still exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. We were looking for it. We were waiting for it. We were like, oh, here it comes. Where is it? Where's this incredible ending? And then it happened. And we were like, oh, yeah. Yep. That was it.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
So, just a stunning movie. And then next movie I have as my fifth favorite movie that I watched in 2023 is another movie that we did an episode on in November, and that is Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon.
Oh, wow.
The more I think about this, the more I like it. I watched that one twice as well, and going into it, it's weird to kind of go into a movie that shows up on a lot of 100 best movies ever made lists and be surprised that I liked it as much as I did.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, I think I get it. With Kubrick being kind of a very hit or miss director for you, there was definitely minefields that, and it's so long. And yeah, I think, and right after I watched it, I could totally see how someone would hate it, aka
Yeah.
the person I watched it with. But
that was part of it too, is I had heard that before I started it. So I was like, God, what am I getting into?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, it makes you think. I have thought about it often since watching it, and glad and interesting that we got to see it right before Ryan O'Neal passed, because really
I
quite a
know
performance by him. Understated performance.
it really is, but I don't know how many other actors could have pulled that off.
Yeah, could have truly just kind of disappeared in kind of the blandness. He uses
and like sort of deadpan buffoonery.
Yeah, the deadpan buffoonery he uses to his advantage so much in that movie.
Yeah, it's a really, really great movie. And then that's at 105 on my top 200, and my number 4 movie of 2023, and at number 104 on my top 200 is the 1942 World War II comedy directed by Ernst Lubitsch.
Oh, that guy.
To Be or Not to Be.
Okay.
Starring Carole Lombard and Jack Benny.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my love for this movie is that it came out in 1942.
Yes.
And the fact, like, if you've seen it, I think you'll kind of understand what I mean by that. But how willing they were to like poke fun. And like, this was kind of Ernst Lubitsch's way of poking at Hitler and the Nazis, was to make them look ridiculous. And he does it this movie is, I think, so funny and captivating as well. So if you haven't heard of this one, during the Nazi occupation of Poland, an acting troupe becomes embroiled in a Polish soldier's efforts to track down a German spy. So a concept where you can already see, kind of, if done correctly, that you can tell a serious story about, but also have fun with kind of an acting troupe sort of inadvertently being involved in like espionage.
Yeah.
So makes fun of actors, makes fun of Nazis. It's got Carole Lombard and Jack Benny in it. I think this movie is fantastic. And that was kind of my tier 2, because the next 3 all made my top 100.
Yeah, I was going to say, here we're entering the ones that actually cracked the top 100.
We are. And the first one, so my number 3 movie of 2023, is another one that you and I watched together and we both loved. And that is Dead Man, directed by Jim Jarmusch. We need to do an episode on this movie at some point.
Yeah, we definitely
if only to force Adam to watch it.
And to talk about it again. We never...
Well, also to talk about it. But again, like maybe, Dead Man, My Darling Clementine, maybe 2 others. I think a Western month would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, agreed.
But Dead Man is Jim Jarmusch, 1995, starring Johnny Depp, Gary Farmer, and a whole host of other like little character actors that you'd recognize.
Yeah.
With a score by Neil Young.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like Dead Man, I think, is one of the coolest movies ever made.
So cool.
It's also really fun and funny and really smart and like thought provoking. This is just a fantastic movie that I would recommend to pretty much everybody. And yeah, we should do an episode on this because I think it's phenomenal. Was there anything else you wanted to add on Dead Man?
No, I really want to watch it again. Totally. I had seen other Jim Jarmusch movies and I thought some of them were kind of cool and quirky and some of them didn't really work for me. But this movie showed me like why he even like is as famous and popular as he is. Cause he seems like he was just the coolest guy in 1995 that existed. And he just created this crazy, unique black and white Western comedy drama that's just it's also
like really existential and looks at our history with the Native Americans in a far smarter way.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I also think just like that we weren't really doing a ton in the 90s. It's starting to happen a bit more now with God, what's that Amazon Prime show with Emily Blunt? That one really looks back. It's just a 6-part miniseries, but that one looks back at kind of that history and, what else was going on out when we were expanding to the West, like what the cost of that was and some of the atrocities that were committed while that was happening.
Yeah.
I feel like it's becoming a bit more common to see. So for something from the 90s, which I don't, if there's another one out there that I'm missing, please let me know. But this felt like about time somebody made a movie like this. And it's also just amazing anyway.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's fantastic. So Dead Man, my number 3 movie of 2023.
Okay.
On to number 2. And this one, I think I recommended to you like right after I saw it because this was an instant 5-star movie for me.
Instant 5-star. Oh, wait, actually, before you go on, wait. So have you seen Dead Man 3 times now or still just twice?
Just twice. I've really been itching to watch it again lately, though.
Okay. Because I know you said on the second watch you brought it down just a tiny bit, but it sounds like it still made your top 100. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I didn't know if you
usually takes me a long time to bump something up to 5 stars. But
all right.
These next 2 movies just instantly made it.
Yeah, what's the Insta 5-star?
Yeah, number 2 movie of 2023 is The Long Day Closes, directed by Terrence Davies. I almost said Terrence Malick.
Wow.
From 1992, a very small, sort of semi-autobiographical British movie.
Okay.
From Terrence Davies. It's set in the 50s in Liverpool. Terrence Davies died recently, I believe. And he is kind of one of the most successful and biggest gay directors from the UK.
Okay.
And so this movie is about basically him before he went to whatever their version of like middle school or like high school would be.
Okay.
So it's a lot of it is just based on how he grew up. He had a ton of siblings. Their father was horrible. And then did talk about after his father died, he remembers life getting a lot better.
Interesting.
And so this is basically the sort of his memories of the sunnier portion of his childhood between when his dad died and when he got older and started to realize that he was gay. And that came with all kinds of like bullying and tormenting in his teenage years.
Yeah.
So this takes place kind of over the course of a year when he's like 11 years old.
Okay.
And it's a lot of kind of melancholy with a bit of that, like the movie knows that some dark times are coming. So it's trying to kind of savor all of these good moments while it can. And it uses music and like fade cuts in a way where it feels like you're watching somebody's memories.
Interesting.
And it's 85 minutes long. It has one of the best scenes I have ever seen in a movie.
Wow.
Which is like right towards the end, which is just kind of a montage cut to the Debbie Reynolds song Tammy from like the 1950s or early 1960s. It is stunning.
Okay.
And there's so much music in this movie, and the way he cuts it together and weaves everything together is so good. I was just absolutely blown away by The Long Day Closes. I have that as my number 69 movie of all time. It's toward the lower end of the 5-star movies, but an instant 5-star movie and an absolute classic for me. And I think one of the best movies of the 1990s.
All right.
And then we finally made it onto my best new to me watch of 2023. Which is also my number 36 movie of all time. And that is In the Mood for Love, directed by Wong Kar-wai, starring Tony Leung and Maggie Cheung. This one shows up. I mean, I think it's in the top 10 on the Sight and Sound list.
Yeah, this shows up.
This is one of those movies that it's like everybody gives this movie 5 stars. And I've talked before about how sometimes within the first like 10, 15 minutes of a movie, I can just tell that it's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for Dead Man, I think of when he falls off the roof.
Yep.
I was kind of like, okay, this movie gets it.
Yeah.
For In the Mood for Love, it's the first time that I'm maybe the best. I don't know. I love the Once Upon a Time in America score so much, but one of the best movie scores ever, one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. I recently got it in 4K. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh boy.
In 4K. It's just going to go even higher.
It is.
There's this song called Yumeji's Theme that plays constantly throughout the movie. The first time that comes in, I was just instantly mesmerized, and I was like, this is fucking incredible. And I can't remember if I think it's within the first like 20 minutes of the movie. It's hard for me to remember exactly how long it takes for that to come in, but that was when I knew that I was watching a masterpiece, and it maintained that high for the rest of the movie.
Amazing. Okay. Well, yeah, as if the hype wasn't enough, now I definitely need to check that one out. I wrote down the ones from your 15 that I did not see, so it sounds like I need to check out The Big Heat, My Darling Clementine, Safe, The Innocents, They Shoot Horses, Don't They, To Be or Not to Be, The Long Day Closes, and In the Mood for Love, which has been near the top of my watch list.
Nice.
Forever.
I'm glad you jotted those down, because I was going to go through them again, and I couldn't remember which you had seen and which you hadn't. But and I don't think any of the ones that I have here that you have seen you disliked.
No, yeah, none of those were very polarizing. I think The New World was probably the one that I think maybe the largest gap between how much you liked it and I liked it.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it. I mean, we did a whole episode out it. I totally appreciate what he was going for. But.
Exactly. I think everyone I had, you at the very least were like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And some of them I really, really loved.
Yeah, like I'll just run through those 15 again really quick if you wanted. If people are looking for Rex, which is kind of part of the purpose of 15, this whole thing.
Again, everybody, get your pens ready. This is a man who averaged 0.87 movies a day.
We're only talking about 15 of them, though.
Only 15. Here we go.
Blowout, De Palma. The Big Heat, directed by Fritz Lang. My Darling Clementine by John Ford. Perfect Blue by God, I can't remember that guy's name.
Fucking genius.
Yeah, by a fucking genius. That's what Perfect Blue is by. Perfect Blue, and then The New World. Safe from 1995, Todd Haynes. Paper Moon, Bogdanovich, early 70s. The Innocents, Jack Clayton. Ghost Story from the 60s. They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Phoenix. To Be or Not, Barry Lyndon, and then To Be or Not to Be, then Dead Man, The Long Day Closes, and In the Mood for Love.
Some good movies right there.
Oh, yeah.
And once again, we will be doing Paper Moon, an episode on that pretty soon, so be looking for that. Excited to revisit that and just talk about it and introduce it to some new people maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a really fun movie to talk about. It was one of those ones I finished and thought, like, how did I wait so long?
Yeah.
Watch Paper Moon. People have been telling me for years to watch Paper Moon.
They're right up your alley. Okay. Seriously.
God.
Sometimes we just, people really do know us better than we know ourselves, and we should just take their recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, this was fun. Congratulations on adding these movies to your top 200. I will definitely be checking them out soon, and I will let you know when I can get to some of the ones that I haven't seen. Is there anything else, or is it time to put a wrap on the show?
No, I think that's it. Just want to thank people for checking this out. Remind them to like and subscribe if you want to keep getting updates on what we do here. Help us grow the channel. This is a really fun episode.
All right, cool. Awesome. All right, take it away.
The eagle never lost so much time as when he submitted to learn from the crow.